What an amazing set we've listened to of lectures so far. Who's been enjoying it? Thoroughly. I was just thinking today about Acts 17 and the hauling in of, they were looking for the perpetrators of spreading this gospel in the city, and they only found Jason and a few brethren. And they said, these are the men that have turned the world upside down. Well, I think Dr. Mark can be put in that category, turning our world upside down only to show that that's the right way up. Yeah? And I'm just so thrilled, Dr. Mark, that you can be with us. Let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we do know that there are things for us to learn, and we ask, Father, that our own prejudices, you'll reveal that to each of us, and you be our teacher tonight, even as your Spirit moves on Dr. Mark Sandoval to teach us these things. Thanking you in Jesus' beautiful name. Amen.
Thank you. So, just to pick up where we left off, there is the possibility for us to have the wrong standard, to have the wrong measure, and what does that look like and how does it manifest? And so that really comes down to the fact of believing lies. And again, one of the lies that we believe is, it's about me. This is a fundamental lie. This is not picking on any single individual. We're talking about humanity. And we're talking about humanity since the fall in Eden, right? This is not how God created us, but this is how things have happened since the fall. And so we have this thought, it's about me. And because we have this thought, it's about me, then we take things personally. So if you have a cat and the cat knocks the cup over and now there's water all over the table, how come it's water that's all over the table? The cat knocked over the cup, right? Well, you bump into the table and the cup spills over and now there's tea all over the table. How come it's tea that's all over the table? You bumped into the table, all right? So the earthquake comes along, shake, shake, rumble, rumble, and the cup falls over and now there's milk all over the table. How come it's milk that's all over the table? Because the earthquake shook it. And the friend comes over and they bump into the table and the cup spills over and now there's grape juice all over the table. How come it's grape juice that's all over the table?
Because it's grape juice that's in the cup.
Ah, all right. So it's not water that comes out because the cat spills it over. It's not tea that comes out because you knock it over. It's not milk that comes out because the earthquake that knocks it over. And it's not grape juice that comes out because your friend knocks it over. It doesn't matter what knocks over the cup. What comes out of the cup comes out because that's what's in the cup, right? If there was nothing in the cup, nothing would come out, right? If there was nothing in the cup, nothing would come out. It's true for people too, right? It's true for people as well. That it doesn't matter what knocks someone over. What comes out of them because that's what's in them, right? That's what's in them. So what somebody says and what somebody does and how they say it and how they do it, it has everything to do with them because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them, right? Couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. So what somebody says to you and how somebody says it to you and what they do to you is not about you. It's about them because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them, right? So what others say, what others do, how they say it, how they do it is not about you. Even if they add your name to it and zing it right in your direction, it's still not about you because it couldn't come out of them if it weren't in them. What they say and what they do is about them, not about you. Right? So the Bible is telling us, Jesus says in Luke 6:45, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And Solomon told us in Proverbs 4:23, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. The Bible is telling us what comes out of an individual comes out of them because that's what is in them. So don't take personally what others say and do. It's not about you. It's about them. Right? That's about them. Now, could it be true what they say? Yes. So what somebody says to you and about you might be true. But who do we take it from? Do we take it from them? If we do, we'll be in trouble. Right? If we take it from them, we will be in trouble. Who do we need to take it from? God. Right. So, what we do is we take what they say and we bring it to God and we say, what do you think about this? Because God will bring you the truth, but He always brings you the truth in love, in a way that is beneficial, that will build you up and not tear you down. And so you bring it to God and you say, okay, God, of these things that they said, what's true? And you take from Him what He reveals, right? So you take it from Him, you don't take it from them. Now, you've heard the old phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Right, you laugh. Because we've got experience. There's the other phrase, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will crush my soul. Which is true? The one you believe. Right? The one that's true is the one that you believe. This will sound like a radical statement, but we'll talk it through and come to a plane of understanding. Nobody else's words can hurt you. Okay. Nobody else's words can hurt you. For example, if I am suffocating here, will your breathing over there help me? No. If you eat poison over there, will that kill me? No. It's only what I take in and what I make a part of me that will hurt me or help me. If you take it in and you take it, it will harm or help you. It won't harm or help me until I take it. Right? So I can never be hurt by somebody else's words until I make them my words. Until I make them my words. How do you take somebody else's words and make them your words? What's the taking? You believe it. That's right, it's belief. So when the words are spoken and you believe the words, you take them in. Now they become yours, right? If you don't believe them, you don't take them in, they don't affect you. Let's say that you went to a comedy show and, the comedian, that's who it is, right? The comedian's up front and he's just throwing jokes here, there, and everywhere. And he turns to you and he says, well, you're uglier than a donkey's rear end. And everybody's laughing and all that kind of stuff. Do you take it personally? No, because you know you're in a comic show. You know it's just jokes. They don't mean anything. Everybody's laughing, sure, and whatever. Do you go around the rest of your life thinking? No, you don't go, But if your mother told you that, guess what? You take it right in. You make it your own. And then what do? You look in the mirror and you repeat it. And you repeat it. And you repeat it. And you repeat it today, and you repeat it tomorrow, and 3 days from now, and next week, and the week after that, and the month after that, and the year after that, and 10 years down the road, you're still repeating it. You can never die from somebody else's words. You can only die by your own words. So is it important who we take from and what we take? Yeah. Because we will either kill ourselves or we will open a channel of life by what we believe or what we don't. That's hard stuff, but we got to see it, right? We've got to see it. And stop blaming everything and everyone around us for the chaos that's going on inside. Because we have an individual responsibility for what we take or what we don't. Now, I don't want to sit here and blame everybody as if everybody's horrible people. I do this too. It's humanity. It's human nature. We, in our current state, can't help it. In our current state, we can't help it. So there's something that we need in order to get us over that, right? Something that we need in order to get us over that. I'm just highlighting what the problem is right now. We haven't gotten to the solution yet, right? But hang on, we're going to get to the solution. So you can never be hurt by someone else's words. You can only be hurt by your own words. And you make them your own words when you believe them. When you take from others and you take those words from them and you repeat it to yourself. Now, what somebody else says and what they do, how they say it and how they do it, it's everything about them. It's not about you. We don't have to take it personally. We shouldn't take it personally because it's about them. It's not about us. But the opposite side of the coin is equally true. It doesn't matter what they said. It doesn't matter what they did. It doesn't matter how they said it or what they did it. It doesn't matter how much sleep you got or you didn't get. It doesn't matter how much pressure you were under or pressure you weren't under. It does not matter. What comes out of you only because that's what's in you. That's what's in you. Right? So if anger comes out, then guess what? Then anger is inside, even if you don't think it's there. Because it couldn't come out if it weren't in there. And if you go around blaming everybody else for how you respond because of what they were like before you responded, guess what? You'll never learn your lesson. You'll never overcome your difficulties and deficiencies. You will always continue to be a slave to that which is inside because you don't realize it's part of you because you blame it on them. How did Jesus respond when people tried to step on his toes? Did he respond like this? No? No. He always responded in love. Because that's what was inside. And that's what came out. No matter how anyone treated him. No matter. So when we respond negatively to something that happens, regardless of how it happens, what is it evidence of? There's an inside problem. There's an inside problem, right? And my problem is not them and what they say. My problem is me and what's inside, right? And until we realize this, and until we go there, we're never going to overcome. We're just going to continue blaming everything and everyone outside of us for how we respond, and we're never going to overcome. Are we in a time of Earth's history where we need to just sit around and never overcome? No, not at all. Not at all. There's got to be overcoming, so we got to learn this stuff. Do you need love? All right, good. Yes, we do. What's the definition of a need?
It's something that you can't live without.
Okay, so something that you cannot live without, right? Something you must have to survive, but also something which you cannot produce. Right? Something that you must have to survive, but you cannot produce. You need oxygen. You've got to bring it in, but good luck producing it. Well, you might say, okay, well, I can get an oxygen tank. Okay, where'd the oxygen tank get the oxygen from? Well, got it from the air, right? All right, so you go about and you make some air from nothing. Can you? No, you got to go get it. You got to find it somewhere. You can't create it. You need water? You can't create water. You got to go find it. You got to go get it and bring it in. You need food? Any farmers here that can make food? No. I had a farmer in the group once, and he was like, yeah, I can make food. I said, okay, give me some seed. I'm going to give you some seeds, but we're going to throw them in the microwave for a few hours first, then bake them in the oven, and then you can have them. Go, make some food. Not going to work. Right? All you can do is participate in the process or the cycle of life that's already there. Right? You can't make it. So you need love. So can you produce love? No, you can't. So is that just our problem in this room, or is that everybody's problem? That's everybody's problem. Nobody can produce love. But everybody needs love. So if you have a whole bunch of people that can't produce it and a whole bunch of people that need it, and we're still alive, then what does that mean? What's the conclusion? There has to be a source of love that is outside of humanity. There has to be a source of love that is outside of humanity, and that source is exactly the love we need. Exactly the love that we need. Else, the whole species would be gone. Right? So, do you need a love that is full or a love that's incomplete? Do you need a love that's eternal or temporary? Do you need a love that's unselfish or selfish? Do you need a love that's personal or impersonal? All right. So you need a love that's full, that's eternal, that's unselfish, that's personal. Praise the Lord, hallelujah. Yes, that's true for every single one of us, and I don't care which continent I've been on and talked about this. Everybody agrees it's the same. That's the kind of love that we need. Now, what if you believe you can find it here? Don't want to disappoint young lovers in the room. I don't know if there are any. Sometimes you're in the early stages of dating or marriage, and you don't get this idea yet. It hasn't been long enough for it to settle in or to settle out, or to be fought out. But it doesn't take very long after the honeymoon to figure out you can't find it here, right? Because they need it too. They need it too, right? So there's another lie, and that lie is I need love from another person. Right? I need love from another person. Right? Is this too harsh? We've got to get to the foundations. We've got to get to the foundations. So, let's say that you've got a neighbor, and the neighbor is one of those neighborly neighbors. They come over all the time. They want some flour. And they come back later. They want some sugar. They come back later. They want some eggs and butter. They come back later. They want a bowl and a spoon. And a baking sheet. Right? Well, one day it's one of those special knocks. So you know you can't ignore this one. So you go to the door, and there he is. He's desperate, right? But it's a different desperation. I mean, there's some real desperation going on in his voice. Why? Because they found out recently that their child has come down with a terminal condition. And the physicians have given the diagnosis. They've said, sorry, there's nothing that we can do. We suggest hit your bucket list. We'll put you on hospice, you know, in preparation for when you land back, and then you expect to say your goodbyes. Well, they aren't happy with this, and they do one of those unusual things, and that is do an internet search and go past the first page of results. And they go to the second page, and the third page, and the fourth page, and the 8th page, and the 10th page, and the 100th page, and the 300th page, and somewhere down there they find that there's some center off in Russia, and it's figured out how to treat this condition, and they got a 50-50 success rate on this, and you know, but you're not Russian, he's not Russian, and the daughter's not Russian, and so you know, they want payment up front, and it's only $5 million. And so he's coming to you for $5 million. How many of you are going to give him $5 million? All right, that's a problem, huh? All right, so a bunch of cruel people. Nobody's going to give them $5 million so that they can go save their daughter, or at least give her a 50% chance of life. Well, you can't give what you don't have. Can't give what you don't have. So maybe you've got $1,000 that you can put towards this, and so you give them a $1,000 donation. They come back later. What, the $4,999,000? They come back later, and they want the rest of the $5 million, and they come back later, and 3-4 times a day they're coming and knocking on the door, and they want the rest of the $5 million, and this goes on from day to day. How do you feel? Okay. So you're irritated, right? You're frustrated. Why? Because they're coming to you to get what you don't have. You don't have what they need. And how do they feel? They're frustrated too. Why? Because you're not giving them what they need. Welcome to relationships. Welcome to relationships. You have one person going expecting the other person to be the source of what they need. A love that's full and eternal and personal and you know, and so you go for that kind of love from somebody else, and guess what? Can they provide it? No. And so you end up empty, or at least partially so, and there's disappointment, and the other one sees that you're disappointed, and they think that they should be able to supply your need. Then now you're disappointed, and that need isn't supplied, and so then they're frustrated too, because they think they should be able to, and they're not able to, and everybody's frustrated at everybody else. Why? You're going to the wrong place, barking up the wrong tree, trying to go find love where you can't find the love you need. Okay. Now, does that mean that human beings cannot be a channel of love? Yeah. All right. Human beings can be a channel of love. But have you met one that's a perfect channel of love? No, because you haven't met Jesus yet. Right? So it's going to be in some way deficient. When you run into somebody else, there's going to be some way deficient. And if you continue to eat on a deficient diet, guess what? There's going to be consequences. There's going to be effects that come because of that. There's another lie: others must meet my needs. Right? That kind of runs together a little bit, but different ways of looking at it. Others must meet my needs. This comes into a concept. I'm going to put a sermon together one of these times called Eaters or Feeders. Eaters or feeders? Are you an eater or are you a feeder? Right? And what is the purpose of the relationship? Is the purpose of the relationship for you to eat, or is the purpose of your relationship to feed? Right? It makes all the difference in the world. Makes all the difference in the world. Now, is it appropriate to have an eating relationship? Yes. With whom? God. With God. The relationship with God is an eating relationship. We are to eat from Him, right? He is the bread of life. He is the water of life, right? He is the sustainer of all that there is. We are to come to Him and we are to eat to the full. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, right? So He's the source. We are to come and we are to eat from Him. The relationship with God is an eating relationship. What is the relationship with others? It's a feeding relationship. That's what the law shows us, that we are to take from God as our only source and we are to give to others, right? So the relationship with others, according to the law, is a giving relationship, not a taking relationship. But everybody who enters into marriage does so hoping that they might banquet for the rest of their lives. Right? And the spouse is the main course. And so we hope to eat from each other and be fed by each other for the rest of our lives, and as long as the eating goes well, the relationship goes well. But how long does that go well? Till the honeymoon's over. And for a little while after that, you eventually realize, hang on, there's some sour spots and there's some rotten spots. This eating is just not going as well as I thought it was. And this banquet is just not looking as pretty as I thought it was. And riding off on horseback into the sunset, right, means that things are going to get dark and your rear end's going to get sore. Everybody thinks it's just a wonderful picture, but come on. My wife and I have been married for 22 years. I mean, we're not we've been around the block a few times. We've kind of figured this stuff out, right? Others are not there to meet my needs. God is there to meet my needs. He is there to meet my needs. Others are there for us to give to. What would it be like if you married somebody with the objective of giving to them for the rest of your life? Yeah. There would be so many problems that you wouldn't have. So many problems that you wouldn't have. We're going to run into some scenarios and look at them tonight. Whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with oxygen? It's mine. I got to breathe. Whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with water? It's mine. I got to drink. And whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with proper nutrients? It's mine. I got to choose it and eat it. So have you ever been empty when it comes to love? At least felt that way. Yeah? I mean, I have. Yeah? Whose responsibility is it for me to be filled with love? Is it God's? Or is it mine? It's mine. You know, we're told God does how many things well? All things well. How often does he do all things well? All the time. If it was God's responsibility to fill us with love, how full would we be? Completely full. How often? All the time. So if you are ever even once less than 100% full of love, that one bit of time that you're less than 100% full of love is your evidence it's not God's responsibility to fill you with love. It's your responsibility to take the love you need so that you might be full. It's his responsibility to make sure it's available. It's available. Imagine you were fasting. Went on a week-long fast, drinking water, little salt, and now you're going to break that fast. And there's this restaurant in town, and it's a buffet, and it's plant-based, whole food, healthy for you. Everything is good. It's got hundreds of options. I mean, it's got this huge salad bar with all this stuff here. Some of it you don't even know what it is, and you know, all of these dressings and toppings and hors d'oeuvres and entrees and even desserts, and it's all good for you. And of course it's buffet, so you pay at the door and you get your plate, bowl, spoon, fork, knife, tray, napkins, you know, a few extra ones because you know you're going to get a little drooly. And you go walking around and you're like, oh, I want some of that. Oh, no, you're going to survey the territory first because, you know, you're not going to eat all the several hundred options that are there. And so you go looking at this and smelling that and thinking about that, and you're salivating and, you know, and everything, and you got it all planned out, and you leave your bowl, plate, spoon, fork, knife, tray, and everything there, and you walk outside. You're still hungry. I'm going to sue that restaurant. You think I'm going to get very far with that? No, you're not in California. Sorry, if anybody's watching from California. Sorry, Newsom. And so, no, you're not going to get away with that. Why? It's not the restaurant's responsibility to feed you. It's their responsibility to provide the food and to make sure that it meets certain criteria. It's your responsibility to take what you need and eat it, right? Same thing is true spiritually. God has a buffet of love. And that buffet includes all different aspects of love, including grace and security and belonging and truth and mercy and freedom and acceptance and justice. And yes, it has some other dishes we don't really exactly care for, like self-sacrifice and self-denial and delayed gratification and other things like that. And we're like, no, not that stuff. But it's got everything we need, right? So God's buffet of love, when is it closed? Never. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. It is always open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365.25 days a year. It's never closed. You can always go there, and it's always open. Will you ever go there and your favorite dish is wiped out? No. He says, I have loved you with what kind of love? An everlasting love. It's an everlasting supply. Nobody will go there before you and finish out the dish before you get there, and you go, oh no, it's gone. No, it's an everlasting supply. It's always open. It's always full. And beyond that, it's always free. Ho, everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you who have no money, come buy and eat. Yes, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. Now, it's not that it doesn't cost anything. It's really expensive. But he paid for it so that you can go for free. If you walk away from that kind of buffet empty, who can you not blame? God. Don't blame God if you walk away empty, because it's not his fault. It's your own. Because only you can do the taking. Right? Only you can do the taking. But before you start beating yourself up, recognize it's not the only buffet. There's other buffets out there. Buffets of selfishness. And they come in all sorts of faces and places and varieties, and they're all sitting here today too, and standing up front talking as well. And so there's all sorts of buffets of selfishness that are out there, and it has some nice tasty dishes like pleasure and power and popularity and possessions and position and so on, but it comes along with some other stuff too, like fear and control and manipulation and injustice and lies and betrayal and abandonment and abuse and rejection and so on and so forth. It's got all that kind of stuff there. You ever heard the phrase, you are what you eat? Yeah. You eat that apple, you swallow it, you get it down, it digests. Some of it gets into the bloodstream, gets around, gets into the fluids around the cells. Some of them take it in, becomes a part of the cells, becomes a part of who you are. Now, it takes a process of minutes to a few hours for that to happen, but when it comes to spiritual things, it's just like that. You ever had a situation where things were going well, life was good, maybe you got a raise, you were commended at work or something like that, and you come home and you're breaking through and you've got smiles on your face, and you come in and you met Mr. or Mrs. Grumpy there. And they're like, why are you smiling? Oh, it's so sickening, I can't stand it. Just wipe that off your face. How long does it take you before you're like, right? It doesn't take very long at all. It's just like that. Why? Because spiritually, it doesn't take very long to eat something before it's in, and you can spit it right back out. Right? Now, your outcome is not dependent upon what somebody else around you is saying and doing. It's not. Yes, there's that buffet, but it's not the only one. There's that one too. Right? The buffet of God's love is available anytime, anywhere, any place, any circumstance, any situation. It is there and it is available. And you have the option either to eat from this buffet or to eat from this buffet, and your outcome in any situation is not what they are like. Your outcome in the situation is, which buffet do you eat from? Is it from them or is it from him? Right. That will determine your outcome. So, God is trying to give us an option to take from here. But that doesn't mean that we don't have the option for here. But by His grace, He wants us to stop taking from here and to take from here. How often? All the time. All the time. So that it becomes the only buffet that you take from. Is there any example of someone who eats from this buffet and not from that buffet? Jesus. Jesus. If Jesus was having a good day, do you think He had good days? Yeah. If He was having a good day and He came home and He walks into the home and one of His brothers is just like, oh, I can't stand, you're so smiley and singy and whistly and all that kind of stuff. It's just so sickening. Can't you just be miserable for one day? Did Jesus turn right around and go, no. Did His mood change because somebody else around Him was Mr. or Mrs. Grumpy? Why? He wasn't eating from their buffet. It doesn't matter how they were like. It doesn't matter how they behaved. It doesn't matter what they say and what they do. He recognized what they say and what they do comes out of them. It's about them. It's not about Him. He's eating off of His Father's buffet. Do we have evidence of that? Yeah. John 2, 24 and 25. Jesus would not entrust Himself to them, for He knew all people. He did not need any testimony about or from mankind, for He knew what was in each person. Jesus did not eat from others. He didn't. Never. Not even once. Who'd he eat from? From his Father. And what did his Father say? This is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Well pleased. So, if Jesus was around the Pharisees and they were saying, you are Beelzebub, what was Jesus thinking? I'm the Father's Son. And he loves me. And I'm well pleased. And he's well pleased with me. And when they said, you are a Samaritan and a sinner, what was he thinking? I'm the Father's Son, and he loves me, and he's well pleased with me. And when they said, oh, we can't stand you, let's throw you off the cliff, what was he thinking? I'm the Father's Son, and he loves me, and he was well pleased with me. No matter what they said or what they did, he didn't eat from them. He only ate from him, his Father. You can only ever be manipulated by someone whom you eat from their buffet. If you don't eat from their buffet, you cannot be manipulated or controlled by them. Never. Because nobody can ever take control from you. You can only give control to them for them to use. And you give control to them for them to use by making them your source. And when you make them your source, then they can control, then they can manipulate, then they can threaten, then welcome to life. But guess what? Jesus was free from all of that. He was free from all of that. He was never controlled and manipulated by another person. He was never threatened by them. He was never disheartened. He was never elated. You couldn't butter him up and you couldn't tear him down because he never ate from another person. He always ate from his Father. And he lived that kind of life not to be an enigma and an anomaly. He lived that life to be an example of what we, by his power, can be. And it is that kind of freedom that he died to purchase for us, so that we might be free from manipulation. We might be free from control. We might be free from our slavery to others and what they think and how they speak, and we might be free from the personal hurts that come from all of those things. We might be free trusting in our Father who never changes, who says, I love you, you're my child, I'm well pleased with you. To live in that light gives confidence that no one can tear down. You want it? Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. The truth will set you free. Free from far more than you ever thought the truth could set you free from. But when we believe the lies, that's what holds us in bondage. The believing the lies. There's another lie, and that is, it's mine. Again, a fundamental lie, it's mine. So, let's imagine the individual in your life that you love the most, You want to get them just the perfect present. It's an anniversary, birthday, some kind of celebration coming up in a few months, and you want to get them that perfect thing. So you go shopping and looking around, and you find it. It's it's just perfect for their personality. They're going to love this one. But it's expensive, and so you've got to spend a few weeks or a couple of months saving money aside so that you can actually buy this one for them. And you do, and you get it, and you wrap it up nicely, and the day comes. And you go up and you walk up, and they open the door. And with a smile, you hand them the present. And they take the present, and they throw it on the ground, they stomp on it, and they slam the door. How do you feel? Terrible? What's that? Crushed? Shocked? Angry? Hurt? Yeah? Okay. All right, good. Good human responses. All right. So now imagine that you work for Oops. And you've been working for Oops for a while. And you like working for Oops. You're one of those brown people, you know, you wear brown clothes, driving brown vehicles, carrying brown packages, going knocking on brown doors, and, you know, and so one day you stop at a particular residence, you grab the package for that residence, you go up to the door, you knock on the door, the resident of the home comes out, you have them sign for the package, they sign for it, you hand them the package, they take it, they throw it on the ground, they stomp on it, and they slam the door. How do you feel? Not bad. Who cares? I don't know. Yeah, what's going on here? Surprise, maybe? Mad? All right, confused, yeah. All right, so our response in the first scenario is entirely different than our response in the second scenario, but the same thing happened. The exact same thing happened, but our response is entirely different. Why? In the first scenario, it's mine. It's mine, right? That was my present. It was purchased with my money. It represents my love, and that was my loved one. In the second scenario, it's not mine, right? It's not my money. I mean, not my present. Wasn't purchased with my money. Doesn't represent my love. And that's not my loved one. Right? So to the degree to which you believe that it's yours is the degree to which you will take it personally. And you will be hurt. You'll be crushed. You'll be upset. You will be shocked. You will be all of these different things. But the degree to which you believe it's not yours, you will have none of those responses because it's not yours. It's not about you. Right? In the first scenario, you're the owner. In the second scenario, you're the steward. Let me tell you this, God never intended for us to be owners. Because there's a whole heap of trouble that comes with being the owner. And He didn't want that trouble for us. God intended for us to be stewards, to save us from the trouble. Because freedom does not come to the owner, freedom comes to the steward, because it's not yours. You don't have to deal with it, right? There's a freedom that comes in being only the delivery person of someone else's goods. Are you the originator of the love? No, you can't produce it. You're only the channel of the love. But when you think that you're the originator of the love, and the love is not reciprocated as you thought that it should be, then you take it personal. But when you realize all you are is a channel of that love, it doesn't come from you, it only comes through you, then if they don't drink from your hose, pour them. Pour them. They're the one missing out, right? In the first scenario, I'm upset and, these take things personally. Why? Because I didn't receive what I expected. Presents come with strings attached. Right? Come with strings attached. Expectations. Human love gives in order to receive. Human love invests in others. We put something of value in with an expectation of getting something of greater value back. You might put in attention, but you're looking for attention. You might put in time, but you're looking for acceptance or belonging. You might put in teddy bears, but you're looking for harmony. You might put in expensive things, but you're looking for security, things that are more important to you than what you gave away. Every human being gives this way. We invest in others. Does God invest in his children? No. He doesn't. God does not invest in his children. God cannot invest in his children. God cannot invest. It's impossible. Because investment is putting something of value in with an expectation of greater value back. What in all creation and anywhere can give God back more than what he gave? Nothing. The only way God could invest is if there was another God that he gave to, and that other God could create what he didn't give so that he could give back more than what he gave. Let that one settle in for a little bit. So, you've heard the phrase no strings attached, right? In human love, there's always strings attached. There's no such thing as no strings attached. Always strings attached. For example, let's say that you've got a neighbor that moves in. We'll call him Howard. All right, so Howard moves into the neighborhood, and you've never met him before. He comes up and he knocks on the door, and he introduces himself. So, hi, I'm Howard. Moved to the neighborhood, just getting to get to know the neighbors and seeing how things are going. And here, he hands you a $20 bill and says, "Here, use this for whatever you want to," and he walks away. What are you thinking about Howard?
Why did he give me the 20?
All right, so why did he give me the 20? All right. Somebody's probably thinking, "Hey, I like Howard. It's nice having Howard in the neighborhood, huh?" All right, so next scenario, Howard comes and you've never met him before. He comes and knocks on the door and he introduces himself. "Hi, I'm Howard, coming to meet the neighbors, yada, yada, yada." And he hands you a suitcase and he says, "Here, use this for whatever you want to." And he walks away and you open up the suitcase and...
Where did he get this?
Okay, where did he get this from? All right. Yeah, $20 or a suitcase full of $100 bills, right? Which one are you more comfortable with? All right. Which one are you going to accept? So some people are going to accept nothing, other people are going to accept 20, and other people are going to accept the suitcase. Maybe, yeah, maybe not. Might be a little bit skeptical about that, right? Why do we have a difficulty accepting the suitcase?
I think he stole it. Because he's going to want more from you.
Ah,
Why?
that's right. Because the bigger the gift, the bigger the string, and the harder they can pull, right? You want to control teenagers in those unruly years? Just give them a big gift with strings attached, like a car. If you don't behave, parental manipulation. So, how much return you need depends upon your expectations. How much return you need depends upon your expectations. As long as your expectations are met, we're good. But once your expectations are not met, there's trouble. Right? And who are the expectations for? Oh, that would be perfect if it was true. So who are my expectations for? It's for me. If you ever want to know where your motivation is, you'll never find out when everything goes well. Because selfishness and selflessness look the same when everything is going well. It's when everything falls apart. You'll find out whether the motivation was right or wrong by how you respond to the crisis. Right? Lie, I love you, is a statement of fact. Right? Anybody here believe that I love you is a statement of fact? All right, so you tell whoever you're telling I love you to, I love you, and they say, okay. And then you say, I love you, and they say, whatever. And you say, I love you, and they say, that's your problem. And you say, I love you, and every time you say, I love you, they have some kind of retort of that nature. And they never say, I love you. How long are you going to say, I love you? Once. All right. Are you going to continue saying, I love you? No. Why? Because I love you is a fishing trip. And if you're not catching fish, you've got to change your bait. Right? If you're not catching fish, you've got to change your bait. If you're going and fishing for bluegill, don't stick a shark head out there on a big hook. It's just not going to work, right? Now, they might eat off of that shark head and have, fun with that and whatever. You're never going to catch one of those bluegill. You got to have the right bait and you got to have the right hook, right? In order to catch them. I love you is just the right bait with just the right hook for selfish people. It is. I love you is a request. A request for what? I love you too. Right? And we learn it early. Our 3-year-old is really good at this one. Hope none of them are watching. But he's perfect at it. He'll be going around and he'll be, whatever, and he'll be on the verge of getting into trouble. And he'll say, Mommy, I love you. Yes, yes. It's a tool of manipulation. I love you is. Of seeking to get I love you back. Right? Is I love you for you, or is I love you for me? It's for me. The motive behind I love you is for me. Now, that does not mean that nobody can say I love you and the motive might be for someone else. I'm not saying that it cannot be. I'm just saying that our common experience in humanity is that I love you is for me, not for you. In fact, every gift that we give to others is for us, not for them. Because we have an expectation of return, some kind of return. It might not be the same manner or the same way, but we were expecting at least an acknowledgement or a thank you or a hug or a smile or something of that nature from them. And when we don't get what we expect, life goes downhill. There's another line. Others belong to me. Others belong to me. It's a lie, but we like it, but it's not true. How many of your children are yours? None. How many of your parents are yours? None. How many of your loved ones are yours? None. They don't belong to you. Who do they belong to? God. Does God set you up as the owner of others? No. He gives us a stewardship of the relationship. Right? So he gives us a stewardship of the relationship. In this earth, in the context of sin and the consequence of sin, which is death, how long are we given the stewardship of anything? Forever or not forever? Not forever, right? In the context of sin and death in this world, every stewardship that is given to us is temporary. It's for a time. It will be given to you at some point, and it will be taken from you at another. You will not have it forever. And it is true for relationships as well. You have a stewardship of that relationship, but you have a stewardship of that relationship for a time. For a time. It won't be forever. And when they die, or when they walk away, why is it that we mourn the way that we do? We mourn because we lost what was ours. Really? Were they? No. They never were. They never were given to us to be ours. They were given to us not to possess, but to bless. They were given to us so that we might take from God and have the opportunity of taking from Him and giving to them. So our parents are there for us to give to, and our spouses are there for us to give to, and our children are there for us to give to, and our siblings are there for us to give to, and our friends are there for us to give to. Everyone is there for us to give to. And when they're no longer there, have we lost our source? No, because He's always there for us to take from.
Amen.
Yeah. He's always there for us to take from. So when we have God as our source, we can never lose our source. Never. We can give it up, but we can't lose it. Because it's a heavenly treasure and you can never lose a heavenly treasure. If you lose anything, it is proof that treasure you lost was earthly. Because you will lose the earthly treasure. But you can never lose the heavenly treasure. Now, if we saw things from the correct perspective, would there be mourning when a loved one dies? Yes. But what would we mourn for? Would we mourn because we can no longer receive from them? Or would we mourn because we can no longer give to them? If you mourn because of what you cannot receive anymore, I guarantee you that mourning will destroy you. It will. I've seen it happen over and over and over. But if your mourning is because of what you can no longer give, that will never hurt you. It'll never hurt you. Because the one is selfish and the other is selfless. Now, do I blame anyone for mourning in a selfish way over the loss of loved ones? No, absolutely not. No, because we can't help it. We can't help it because we currently have earthly treasure, and you can't help but mourning the loss of that treasure. But God wants to give us another treasure. He wants to change our hearts so that our heart has a heavenly treasure. And when we have a heavenly treasure, we will not mourn the same way that we do now. We will not be at loss in the same way that we do now, because you cannot lose your heavenly treasure. You can only lose the earthly one. Again, the truth is seeking to save us from far more than we ever thought that it could. Far more. It is so outside of our usual train of thinking, it is difficult for us to wrap our minds around this concept of seeing it from the other side, and what would that look like? But even as we gain a glimpse of it, we realize it's beautiful, it's powerful, it's transformative, it's entirely different than I ever thought life could be. And then, of course, we ask the question, can it be? Can it be? And the answer is, look to Jesus and see if it could be. And if you see it in Jesus, then the answer is yes, it can be by the power of Jesus in me and you too. It's a transformative truth that sets us free. 2 more scenarios and we'll close for tonight. Scenario 1. You're going on a date. And you know the individual. Maybe you've been on several dates already. And it's set up at a certain time and certain place. It's going to be at the restaurant, and you go to be there, and you show up early, and you get a table, and you tell the waiter it's going to be 2 of us, and they bring your water or your drink or whatever it is. They ask if you want anything to have now, and you say no, I'm going to wait for them, and time comes for the date, and they're not there, and so you wait a little bit more. You text, no response. You call, no answer. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, waiter comes by, asks question again. Are you sure? Hold off a little. Well, let me order some hors d'oeuvres and whatever. And then you're waiting, and you're 20 minutes into this thing. You're 30 minutes into this thing. You realize, he's been stood up. How do you feel? All right. How you feel is your revelation of your motive for going on the date. Right? How you feel when they don't show up is your revelation of why you went on the date. Did you go to eat, or did you go to feed? Were you going as an eater or as a feeder? If you went on the date as an eater, then who's disappointed? You are, because you didn't get to eat from them when they didn't show up. But if you went on the date as a feeder and they don't show up, who do you feel sorry for? For them. Because they missed out on what you planned to give them. Right? They missed out on what you planned to give them. So you feel sorry for them. Now, you can have, of course, concern for them as well, because they didn't answer the text and they didn't answer the phone, and you might be worried about what's going on with them, and checking up to see how things are going, and maybe they had a flat tire or some other thing, that happened along the way. And sure, yes, you can have concern for others. It's not a problem to have concern for others. It'll never be of harm to you to have concern for others. Jesus had concern for others. He was a man of sorrows and acquainted with griefs, but who did he sorrow for? For others, not for himself. Who was his grief for? For others, not for himself. Right? It was a selfless, unselfish love. And if Jesus was going on the date, would he go as an eater or a feeder? A feeder. And if you didn't show up to the date with him, would he be taking that personally? Oh man, I can't believe they stood me up. No? No, not at all. Because he went there to feed you. And if you didn't show up, well, he feels sorry for you. Because you didn't receive what he came to give. Right? Now, a really hard scenario, we're going to end on this one. It's a really hard scenario. I'm not going to explain anything. But you have this scenario, this situation, which some can't comprehend, and that's good, and so we just don't need to explain it in the room, since we have little participants. All right, so in this scenario, if we have him with a ring, her with a ring, no ring, you get my drift, right? So, where's the problem? Well, the problem's here, right? But who usually has the problem? Her. Why? Because she takes the problem as hers. Right? She takes the problem as hers. I was dealing exactly with this scenario. I was at a camp meeting earlier this summer and counseling with a woman who was concerned about this very situation going on in her marriage, and wondering how she is supposed to handle the feelings and so on associated with this kind of scenario. Because she had sat through a couple of these lectures, and so she's just trying to process all of this stuff. I asked her, why did you marry your husband? Did you marry him so that you might have a banquet the rest of your life? Or did you marry him so that you might provide the banquet for the rest of your life? Well, if you married him so that you would have a banquet for the rest of your life, well, when he's no longer available because he's spreading himself thin, does that affect you? Yes. Does it affect you personally? Yes. Because you're not able to receive what you expect. Right? Now, if you married him to provide the banquet for the rest of your life, and he decides to go eating somewhere else, who has the problem? He does. Right? He has the problem. Who do you feel sorry for? Him. Right. What kind of deception do they need to be in to do this? Yeah. I mean, crazy deception in order to be able to do this. Who is it that is under the condemnation of God's law? Them. Who is it that will be paying the penalty for this? Them. Who is it that the pity is for? It's for them. But the reason that she enters into this and makes it her own is because he is hers. He belongs to her. He's her source, and her source is not behaving well. And if your source upstream is polluted, and that's what you're drinking from, then guess what? You get sick. You get sick and die. So she has the wrong source. He belongs to her. And now she kills herself because he's bad. These are hard things. These are really hard things. But it's real life scenarios. Now, if we change the genders, and this was Jesus, how would Jesus view that situation? Would he be furious? If so, at who or what? Would he be furious at this one or that one? No. But he might be furious at the deception that leads them to do this. Because he's the source of life. If we're talking about, Jesus being here, he's the source of life. And so if they detach, if this one detaches, then they're choosing death instead of life. What a pity for the one who's choosing death rather than life. What a pity for the one who is going after that which will kill them, as if it's something that will save them. There's a divine compassion. There's a yearning for their salvation. There's a desire for them to come out of the deception so that they might be able to see things the right way so that they don't continue going and pursuing death anymore. But if she sees it the way that we usually see it, guess what this will do to her? It'll destroy her. It'll eat her up. Because she'll keep looking at it from the wrong perspective. She'll keep thinking about it the wrong way. And she will kill herself by her own thoughts. Her own thoughts. Right? Is the truth important? Are our problems because we see things correctly? Or are our problems because we've got things upside down? We've been upside down far too long. It's time to allow the truth to turn us right side up so that we can see things from an entirely different perspective. And from that perspective, by the grace of God, be free. Now tomorrow, I told you, we're going to be, until Tuesday, we're going to be digging deeper. And then we're going to start coming out into the light, right? And so tomorrow we're digging even deeper. We're going to look at the heart and how the heart functions and why it does the way that it does and why we respond the ways that we do. Now we're getting into it, but we're going to talk about it some more. And then we're going to start looking at the flip side. What does it look like really the way God created us in the beginning and what he's looking at redeeming us to? What does the truth really look like and how beautiful it is and how bright it is and what it offers to us and how we can be free? Because it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You want to know how beautiful it is? Look at Jesus. Just look at Jesus. And when we see the truth that way, guess what? He begins to live that life in us so that we live that life just like Jesus. That's beautiful. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, oh Lord, help us. This is tough stuff. It really is. It's so backwards. It's so upside down from what we usually think and see. But God, please give us your perspective, that we might see things the right way, and that the truth might set us free. And thank you for working this out. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.